But we're here for a very important reason. And that reason is, it is to recognize leadership. At a time when all of us, I think, can agree on one thing, that we are all looking for leadership. We are here to recognize leaders, recognize achievement. And so I think there can be no better reason for us to be here, to celebrate achievement, young people who've gone beyond the call of duty. I'm also deeply honored to be part of an Isaac event in general, but specifically one that involves the Sri Chevaan Daniel University, because I'm very close to lots of your Isaac members, and I have discovered some incredible leaders who will be on the national stage, even global stage, in the years to come. As we speak about leadership, I want to start by asking you to do something. Would you please raise your hand if you think that Sri Lanka deserves better, and that Sri Lanka and all of us here need good leadership? Please, if you don't believe that, don't raise your hand. Thank you. Okay. I think around 99.9% of us agreed that we need good leaders, not just in politics, but in whatever sphere that you think of. But particularly when you talk about Sri Lanka today, and you think about the things that have gone on in the past couple of weeks specifically, it's very important that we ourselves have a deep understanding of the kind of leader that we expect and that we want in the future. And for this, I think it's very important for us to understand who we are. Who are we as Sri Lankans? What is this country all about? That the rest of the world is dying to come and buy our ports and our airports and our land and everything. Why is Sri Lanka so important that China is so interested in us, that America is so interested in us, that Europe wants us so badly, that the Middle East wants us so badly, that India is so interested in us? But are we as interested in Sri Lanka as the rest of the world? Why? I'll tell you why. A couple of facts. 30,000 naval vessels, 45,000 aircraft, and 4,500 oil tankers pass by our 200-mile nautical mile exclusive economic zone every year. I'm going to say that again. 30,000 naval vessels, 45,000 aircraft, and 4,500 oil tankers pass by our exclusive economic zone. That's incredible. No trade can happen between the Middle East, the energy producers of the Middle East, and the energy consumers in the Far East without Sri Lanka being involved. Immediately, Sri Lanka becomes very, very important geopolitically. But let's go back into some of the other facts that we might not fully appreciate about Sri Lanka. Our 200 nautical miles of exclusive economic zone translates to 512,000 square kilometers of ocean. This is our territory. 9 times that of our landmass. 9 times. And just last year we had a European nation spend 1 year scanning our ocean bed and handing over a tiny report to NARA and heading off with the rest of the data. Is that cooperation? I don't know. But we don't seem to have any understanding of what's going on in our own oceans, which is why our fishing and other resources are being raped and pillaged by other nations, because we just don't know. I discovered an incredible fact. 25% of Sri Lanka's landmass is gem-bearing. Anybody know that? We all thought about Ratnapura and its environments as the key capital of gems and precious stones in Sri Lanka. But 25% of our land contains precious stones. The reason for that is that Sri Lanka is one of the most ancient land masses in the world. 90% of our rock is between 500 million and 2.4 billion years old. So when you go home, take a walk in your garden, and know that what you're standing on is some of the most ancient places on earth. Not just in this region, but on earth. And this is why this land is precious. This is why, as leaders, as young leaders, you need to understand what's been handed to you. If you go back in history, there have been a few times where Sri Lanka has stood united and we have succeeded. Not a few times, many times. If you think about some of the nations that are today very interested in Sri Lanka, let's pick America for instance. I wear 3 badges here, a Fulbright, an Eisenhower and a Humphrey Fellowship. I don't know if there's any other Sri Lankan who's been afforded these 3 fellowships in Sri Lanka by the Americans, but Sri Lanka first. In 1492, when Columbus was roaming around the Middle East and came across the West Indies and finally discovered America, Sri Lanka was already on its 8th kingdom. We were already on our 8th kingdom. We had divided the country into 3. We were dealing with other states and we had a well-established recorded history. When Robin Hood was running around Sherwood Forest stealing from the rich and giving to the poor, 200 years before that, Parakram Bahu I attacked Burma and supported the Pandyan kingdom by sending our troops to the Pandyan kingdom to protect the king. 200 years before that. Just 2 examples. But what happened when we were disunited? Fast forward 100 years from the 1400s, in 1592, a very weak leader, Dharmapala, handed over by deed the whole of Sri Lanka, its ownership and his kingdom, to the Portuguese. What was the result of that? Well, the result was that we had to then invite the Dutch to get out of the hands of the Portuguese, and eventually ended up in us being colonized for 500 years. 500 years. My dear leaders, as you make your leadership decisions today, and as you step out into tomorrow, understand that the decisions that we take today and the decisions that we allow our leadership to take today will have repercussions throughout the future. Repercussions that you and I and our children and theirs will have to pay for. But we have a choice. We have a choice today to make the right call, to think deeply about what sort of future we want.